TV Plus. Cool. All right. Is that all you got, Luke?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start our Tenet review. Should we say a prayer? Or should we pause and do 10 years of research, or should we? I don't know what. But all right, I've been kind of
becomes physics masters first, and then we'll come back and explain
get
to
into
everyone.
Quantum physics. Oh man, I've actually been racking my brain in the days leading up to this podcast just to be like, God, what? Help me understand this thing. Oh man.
So just I don't know. Just let me just add something here. It's just I for a long time now, since I was in high school, for some weird reason, and not this certainly makes me no expert in any way, but there's something about, and I know this is going to sound weird, something about quantum physics that actually has really intrigued me for a long time. And I've actually, when I was at Southeastern, the college I went to, I would actually go into the library and read books on it. It's I don't know. It's amazing when you get down to the theories and stuff. There's so much about quantum physics that is not understood, and I certainly don't understand the stuff that is understood. But there's a very interesting relationships between gravity and time, and all the different. So yeah, I don't know how much to get into it, but it's just very interesting. So this movie was interesting in two different ways for me, where I was very excited, of course, because it was a Christopher Nolan movie. I think he just, whether or not he makes a good movie, he works really hard at making an epic experience with a very interesting story. I mean, I don't think you could say any of his movies have not been that. Now, whether or not they were good movies in the end, that's up for debate, but he works really hard at creating, with practical effects, I will say as well, which I think is a lost art in so many movies nowadays. And what also, of course, drew me to this movie is John David Washington, which just, I don't know. It's just, I'm connected to that man. I enjoy the way he acts. So, and of course, it's interesting to see Robert Pattinson in yet another role as he just, goes in all kinds of crazy directions now. I think he may be the next big thing around Hollywood. So he could be a leading man for years to come, along with John David. He's really good. So,
well, let's before we get into the movie itself, for anyone who's listening or watching, let's kind of feel out the room, Luke. What is okay? So I think it's safe to say that we both think Christopher Nolan is a genius, and he's just one of the greatest filmmakers of our time, if not the. But as far as his movies are concerned, where do your opinions lie? Not we have to give a review of each one, but maybe what is your favorite and maybe your least favorite?
Ooh, let me go to the list so I can have a list to look at. So we're talking Memento, we're talking Interstellar, just so people kind of know what we're talking about. The Prestige, Dunkirk, Inception, Dark Knight, obviously. I mean, all the Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. Those are the big ones. There's some other ones, but I think those are the ones people are going to know. I don't know, man. I enjoy all his movies on some level, and some of them I think are some of the greatest things ever set to film. I think Inception is one of the best movies ever made. I love that movie. I think the concept worked so well in that movie. It just, I love that movie in so many ways. And I really like Memento. I feel like it was it was kind of a precursor for what he did in Inception. Two different concepts, but similar idea and storytelling and moving time around inside of the way a film is edited. Interstellar I really enjoyed, but yeah, for the most part I they're pretty much 7 and up for me on all these movies. The Prestige, honestly, it's a really cool movie. I don't know why I didn't enjoy it as much. But I haven't seen it in a while, so I probably should watch it again. 100%. Where are you at, Jordan?
It's hard to say. Honestly, it's warts and all, probably one of my favorites still Batman Begins. Warts and all, the ending I think is a little sloppy, but I think it's just it's a perfect origin story for Batman. I think it's just fantastic. Obviously, the other Batman movies are fantastic too, and I think I'm with you. Probably technically, I think is best. Like if I had to just look at it as like not my favorite, but what is the best? It probably is Inception. Probably, I think the lower rung is probably Insomnia. I think it's a good movie. Like it's a fine movie. It's just honestly, if you didn't know it was a Christopher Nolan movie and you watched it, you'd be like,
he actually did not write the story.
oh, really? So he just directed it. That might have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I was looking at the writing credits when I was yeah.
So it's not in the same way Christopher Nolan work that these other ones are, where it's just like, this is going to have my fingerprints all over it. And I guess that makes sense. Yeah. You can kind of see that. I mean, it's well directed, and it's just it's a good movie. It's just not in the upper echelons, I guess, of everything else. And maybe the fact that he didn't have the writing on it is why.
Not having written it, yeah, that does change a lot.
Yeah. It changes your connection with the story and I guess how you would direct it, and so maybe that's why it's probably, I think most people would agree with that, one of his lesser works, but still a good movie, so that says a lot. But yeah, I think he's fantastic. And so we got this new one here, and oh my gosh, I got the IMDb pulled up because I'm gonna need all the help I can get. So if I'm referring to IMDb to remember like actors' names and.
Did you know he wrote the story for Man of Steel?
I know he helped on it. I didn't know he.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know he was on he has some writing credits on it. And yeah, he worked with Snyder.
Interesting.
Okay, let's jump in. We're gonna, before we go into spoilers, kind of give a non-spoiler review first, and then we'll dive into spoilers. And the funny thing is, I think usually a lot of times if you go back and listen to some of our spoiler casts, a lot of the times we'll say, "Wow, this movie's really hard to talk about without spoiling it." I think it's the opposite with this one. I'm going to have a harder time getting into the nitty-gritty of this one, but an easier time.
You may not be spoiled if you watch this movie.
That's one way to solve it.
You may come out of this movie saying, what?
Exactly. So,
because I know my wife did.
Pardon? I'm halfway there.
Definitely started to glaze over in some sections.
I'm halfway there. I'm gonna say like I was feeling some anxiety, like maybe not hardcore anxiety, but I was feeling some tension in the movie theater. I don't generally do this. I took a notepad and a pencil with me to the movie. I haven't done this in a very long time. It's not really my style, and I thought to myself, man, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of details in this movie that I'm going to want to jot down. Forget it. Freaking forget it. Like probably 20 minutes in, I put that notepad, like the pencil down in resignation to be like, nope, that's not gonna happen. It's like, because basically by the time I was done processing and writing down one plot point, we're on to the next two maybe. This thing goes by like a freight train.
There's a lot of moving characters in this movie.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and give the IMDb plot to kind of set us off on our non-spoiler review before we go into some spoiler cast. All right, armed with one word only, Tenet. In fighting for the survival of the entire world, a protagonist journeys through a twilight world of international espionage on a mission that will unfold in something beyond real time. There it is. Well, okay.
There it is.
There it is. That's that's I guess the best they can really do to sum up, or else you're just kind of going into spoiler territory. So, Luke, how did you feel in coming out of this movie?
I mean, it's a mind bender. It's definitely one that you think back on and try to like piece together. Okay, wait, how did this happen? Why did this character say this to this character? And I enjoy those kind of things. It's cool to me to think about the concepts that he laid out with this nuclear fission, I guess, radiation that can affect time. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler, but somehow you're able to manipulate time, and it's just interesting to me, like, how would that actually work? That's the kind of stuff where I honestly want to read about it and see, like, is that actually something that could be anywhere in the realm of possibility? Because obviously it's one of those concepts to where you just kind of blow it off and like, well, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Which it probably is, but I don't know. It's just, we're in our world today, we've reached this point where it feels like technology could do so many things. So you start to kind of wonder, like, I don't know if, if our entire world can be run by machines, is time travel in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting for Christopher Nolan to say, it almost feels like, I know this is weird to say, but you know how people started doing those reverse videos on
Yeah.
Instagram
The boomerang or
TikTok or whatever? Yeah. Well, not just the boomerangs, but the ones where they'll actually like film an entire like minute long thing and then do everything in reverse.
Okay, yeah.
Like somebody will like jump into a pool and it'll show like them under the water and then they suck up out. It almost feels like Christopher Nolan watched that and was like, huh.
Yeah.
And like then started coming up with this whole concept, because that, you know, plays out throughout the movie and, you know, for a very significant purpose. Yeah, it's cool for me to think about it, because I don't think I could ever come up with a storyline like this. It just, yeah, it's so interesting. I don't know. That's the best word for this entire movie to me. It's just, it does a lot of cool things. I don't think it does anything extraordinarily well, but it does so many new things in cool ways that are entertaining, fun to watch.
I agree. I mean, definitely entertaining, and again, as I said, this movie moves at a clip. It's constantly going, and how kind of what I feel, you know, most movies, like a lot of times their best stuff is towards the beginning. A lot of stuff, it's where the movie's moving, it's really moving, and you're like, okay, and then it slows down in the middle part of the movie, and that's a lot of the times that's where most people complain about the movie, to say, oh, it really gets kind of boring and kind of gets bogged down in the middle.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's the opposite with this movie. It has a great intro, and from that intro, which is boom, 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 you're in one location, you're in that location of characters telling you this thing, and you're meeting this other character, and you're like, oh my God. And when it get...
And then I would say it had a very strong ending as well.
Yes. I would say that too. Once it got to the middle portion, where the confusion and like the plot points coming at you doesn't really go away, but it does slow down at a certain point in the movie. And I'll talk about what that point is.
I don't know if you experienced this as well, but I had an issue with the mix where sometimes it would be hard for me to understand what he was saying, because the background like orchestral mix that, you know, Christopher Nolan is a staple of his movies. It was so loud that it was hard to like tell the name or like the location or something that he was saying. I'm like, what? Which is weird because the volume was so loud in that theater.
Oh yeah, and you know, I think Nolan dictates that it's going to be so, and it happens in like almost every single one of his movies. Maybe not like some of his earlier stuff, but it feels like lately you'll have the score, and he always has this like droning score. Dunkirk,
crazy loud.
Batman,
Interstellar.
Yeah, Dark Knight Rises. You're like, what did he just say? They have like these droning scores, which it should be said, this is like one of the first that Hans Zimmer did not work on. But it's usually this and then like the characters like expositing during that time, like in crucial plot points that sometimes they will not revisit. So if you missed it, sorry. It's over. It's over, and you missed it. And you have to pick it up through context clues, you know?
I remember there was a part, I think it was at the end of The Dark Knight. Is it The Dark Knight where he has the machine that can see everyone from their cell phone pings? Yes. Yeah. There's a part at the end where he's talking to... I can't remember the character's name, but he's talking to...
Lucius Fox?
He's talking to him. Yeah, Fox. And he's talking to him, and the music's getting so loud. It's like, what? You want to be like, if you're in the corner of the room, like, what? What'd you say?
Probably if you saw it with an older person, they'd be tempted to do that.
And I feel like I have pretty good hearing, too. And I hate complaining about this because I feel so freaking old saying this stuff. But, like, I really do think it's the mix. It's the editing, because I don't have a problem, like, you know, we're talking about Ted Lasso. Like, I don't have any problem picking up all that, because there's not like this, what is an awesome music. Like, I love the music over it. It's just like, maybe wait for that to fade in until after you say, you know, this dude's coming to kill me. Like, maybe I want to know that instead of bomb.
Some part of me, I would like to know what you think about this, Luke. Part of me almost think Christopher Nolan makes his movies with the intention of you to watch it multiple times to understand it fully. I think he's more interested almost in the trick, in obscuring that trick from you, rather than you kind of.
So The Prestige is his filmmaking.
Honestly, yeah, I think
the Turn.
Seriously, I think he does have something to do with like really like thinking about his movies as a magic trick to be like, what can I do?
I can see that.
I want this to go by fast, maybe, so you don't catch it, so you don't see what's coming. I just talked about New Mutants the other day, and this is like, it was like watching a buffoon magician with like cards hanging out of his like sleeve, and it was like that. And this is like,
then you watch a film like Memento, and it's like, oh my gosh, you
don't see.
I don't even want to know what the storyboard looked like behind the scenes for this thing.
And so we got sleight of hands. We're distracting you with quick cuts. The plot's going by fast. We're not staying put for too long, and so we're using sleight of hand. And so when we get to the point at the end, you didn't see it coming. And so, and we can, I guess, debate on whether that makes for an entertaining movie. If for so much of the movie you feel like you're missing something or you didn't pick up on something.
To like agree with what you're saying, I think it's so cool when a movie takes you on a journey to where at the end, when there's the reveal, you're kicking yourself because it's like, oh, I could have seen that. But the way they told the story, it distracted me from that. And I wasn't thinking in that context. And like, it's so obvious now looking back on the movie, but that's really good. Yeah. And I felt like that with this movie. That's what I like the ending so much. It's like, oh man, that's so obvious, but so brilliant at the same time.
Yeah, and that's often like kind of how his movies ends. We're like, oh, okay. So a couple basic things about the movie, I guess, before we go into spoilers. Like, I mean, I think this is a good action movie. I think he knows how to film action.
Oh, yeah.
I love how the fight choreography is in this. How you feel like these characters are just slick. That's how I would like. But from the first fight scene, the first action scene, honestly, in the beginning, I was like, wow, the main character of this movie doesn't actually have a name. he straight up
the antagonist,
the protagonist. You just see him, and he's like slick. The way he moves, the way he slides into cover, you're like, wow, this feels like, it's live action, but it like feels like almost like a video game, and it's like there's no CG or anything like that, but just how slick characters move sometimes. You're like, wow, the precision is just. It's really cool to watch, and I enjoy it.
It reminds me of what they did with James Bond, with Daniel Craig, how they like modernized him and made him more of like a soldier, but also a spy at the same time. It's like John David was kind of that person. He's like this gentleman, but also he's definitely a soldier, as they show you right in the beginning. It's like he's not to be trifled with. Yeah, he's very like 007-esque. It's a good character.
Yeah. Speaking of a character, like, I think that this isn't a movie about character. A lot of Nolan's movies aren't. Like, for instance, honestly, like a movie like especially Dunkirk. It's about the process. It's about emotions. It's about the story and you being there. Not so much about the setting and all that stuff. Not so much about the character. And that's fine. If it's a plot-oriented movie, that's fine. But, you have to have characters that you can at least, like, tag along with, and I think they did a good job of that here. I enjoy the protagonist and gosh, I always messed up his name.
The most they did with the character development would be Leonardo in the Inception. That was the most he's ever probably developed a character and backstory and all that.
I would argue maybe McConaughey and Interstellar, maybe, and obviously like the Batman movies. I think he did some of that, but honestly, other than that, I completely agree. Every character is more functional than actually digging into them. There's probably one character where the source of all the heart comes from in this movie. That being said, though, I never really. It's easy for a movie when it doesn't like really have much character in it for it to feel cold, and I don't feel like this movie felt cold. I felt like it had enough personality to where I kind of felt the people in it, even if I didn't like they weren't fleshed out characters that I could say a lot about,
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, also, I didn't want to bring up that we talked about the volume, and it's I've seen a couple movies in theaters so far. It was as I brought up Peninsula and New Mutants, seeing a Nolan movie in theaters and being like, oh my God, at the first gunshot,
we're back.
It is
That's what I felt like.
It's that we're back.
So glad I didn't watch this at home.
Yeah, when I'm feeling my seat kind of rumble from the bass, it's cool.
Gosh.
You know, obviously if you don't feel safe and you're not healthy, don't go. But if you're good, it's great. It's a great movie going experience. It's really cool, especially if you have a nice theater, which we have a pretty nice theater that we go to, and it felt good, man. It was really cool.
Yep, event films
for sure. I don't have much else to say. I think that without going into spoilers, do you, Luke?
No. Let's get into the nitty gritty.
Okay, so this is your spoiler warning. We're going to go into full spoilers right now. We're gonna try to break down this thing as much as I can. We're gonna try to ask each other some questions. Probably me mostly asking Luke questions about what's.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of that, but we'll try. All right, so Tenet spoilers a go. What? Okay, so
I love reverse fighting.
Reverse fighting is crazy. I don't know how he did that. I just don't know how. I was watching it being like, this is awesome. How did he do this? Yeah. How did he do it? I mean, obviously you see a movie like Doctor Strange. They did this. A movie that's where they're fighting forward, but everything else is going in reverse. CGI.
And there's no green screens in this entire movie. No green screens. So none of that is CGI, and how in the world?
How? I mean, I'm not to discredit Doctor Strange.
Someone had to do that.
Awesome. But what's going on in this? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't really understand how someone could have moved in reverse like that during that, like specifically during that fight in the airport. Like when he's fighting hand in hand, there's like that one shot of them fighting through the hallways. It's like,
yeah.
Yeah. If anything, it's just a testament to good filmmaking.
Yeah, because, like, I would say, like, it's just a great choreography. A lot of that had to be, like, you have to learn how fighting in reverse would look like and learn these moves. And because he had to do it.
But how could your body even bend that way?
I don't know.
Like, if you do a front flip off a wall or a back flip, whatever he's doing, how in the world can you bend the other way and, like, get your legs to, like... it just doesn't seem like your center of gravity would allow you to do that. That's why it's like, it feels like those parts had to be filmed and then reversed.
It does feel that way.
But he's moving forward. So maybe he did it, maybe his movements, because there's that one part where he like flips over him while he's like there. So maybe he moved in reverse standing while the other guy did like a front flip and then they just like reversed and cut it in. That's the only way I can imagine they did it.
Oh, geez.
It's so cool.
It's very cool. I think the whole effect is done really well. And do you think, based on how much you see it in the trailer, like the first trailer, do you think that we get that enough?
You mean like hand to hand?
Well, I just mean,
or just like the whole idea of like
the whole idea
of
inversion. Do you think we get inversion enough?
Yeah. I would say so. I mean, I feel like it just slowly ramps up more and more. That's what I like about it. I almost wish there'd been like a little more of that like beginning part where he's like seeing things inverted kind of out of the corner of his eye sort of thing.
You're like, wait, something's going on here.
Because it almost felt like that whole reveal was almost a little quick. I thought that intro scene was just the best. It reminded me of Inception
I do love
so
the intro
much.
Scene.
It's like it reminded me of like you have to learn to dream a little bit better. It reminded me of that whole scene where they're like barricading the wall in and all the guys are coming to fight him. But yeah, it was a great intro to it. I still am not sure what was happening there. I'm still a little confused who that guy was, the guy asset that they were taking out. And, yeah.
100%.
I still am not sure how that plays into the main story. And I feel like by the end of the movie, I realized that, and I told my wife this, I thought one of the coolest things about this movie was that it felt like Christopher Nolan didn't waste any scenes in the entire movie.
That's for sure.
If you're able to like go back and like which is hard, go back and like realize what was happening. It was like, oh my gosh, every scene played into something that they did later. The inversion like played into those parts, that he saw later, like when she's standing there with the kid and like saying goodbye, and then later she's able to make the phone call and deal with that. It's like that was literally preemptively showing you what was going to come next, and you just didn't realize it because you didn't understand at that point. I think that stuff's so clever.
I'm looking forward to seeing it again and seeing that stuff that like it flew by quickly, but it was there. That's the thing. I feel like a lot flies by quickly, but it is all there. It's very complete, and there's a lot that's going to be unraveled. And probably, honestly, I think people will hold it in a higher regard as people see it and see it again and again and again. And it goes on to home release. Home release, I think, is where this movie, if not for obviously the sound and everything, but for the plot and all the understanding of it and the kind of genius is how he's laid it all out. I think it'll get a lot of more understanding and people unveiling stuff about it. So
just some great action scenes, like you were saying, like when they're rappelling off the side of the building. Like I remember seeing that in the trailer and thinking that was awesome, and it was awesome.
So slick.
It just, there's so many cool things. Like he loves to, like, for instance, this is one of the things that I think makes Christopher Nolan brilliant. So you take, some other filmmaker who, let's just say they're good, they make films, and they say, okay, we need a scene in which the character is making a transition. He's assumed dead. He's now a part of this program, and he's going to somehow transition into the world. And so Christopher Nolan wants to use these grand places where these sweeping shots will be beautiful. Mm-hmm. And he picked those windmills, and they took him out on a boat, which was just a cool like thing. And I think it was, I'm saying preemptively. What I meant is foreshadowing. I think it's foreshadowing the whole part where he's on the boat and the boat's inverted with the girl later. They're on their way back. And I think that whole thing was foreshadowing that, and that's really cool. Whereas, another filmmaker, he could have picked anything. They could have picked some room like they did in what's Casino Royale when he's getting beaten up. Like they just picked like a bland concrete room, and that's fine. That works for that movie. But I think it's cool how Christopher Nolan picks these cool things, and then he gets picked up by a boat, and he's like in this solid. He's by himself, in this little area, and he's working out and he's prepping. He's like preparing his mind for, what he has to do, and then he puts on the high vis and starts his mission. But I don't know. It's just he has a great way of like picking these places. I think of like at the end of Inception, where it's like that giant base on the snowy mountain. It's just an amazing place to like sum up that whole movie. And so many cool things. That the tower in India, like. Just great location scouting, I guess, would be what I would say to that.
One thing I wish they
sets the mood.
I wish they did what I wish they did with that, and I think that's might be a Nolan thing. He doesn't like using establishing shots to basically say, "This is where we are. Here's your shot," just to kind of show you where the characters are and maybe in relation to where they were. And like as someone like the Russos, they overdo that. Like in a movie like Civil War, they'll like go out of their way to establish where a character is, and Nolan bypasses it completely.
They put like nowhere at the
bottom.
My
gosh, they love it.
Like we're on this planet now.
They love it. And and in movies,
here's Stark Tower.
And in movies that location hop, I do appreciate it because it does like give me some pins on the map to where my brain can.
Well, with that movie, it's especially
and what will happen here is they'll be talking to one character and that scene will end and then it'll cut and then he'll walk into a cafe and you're like, oh, we're in London, and we have to like figure that out kind of later.
It's part of the like fast-paced nature of this filmmaking.
It when you're talking about a character one moment, you're meeting him the very next. It's very quick. And I think in some scenes, it's even like the conversation's continuing while the next scene is playing out with the voiceover. And I think this would have benefited a little bit in like the first 20 minutes of a little bit more slowing down, a little bit more of Oh my God, he hates exposition so much in a way. Like it seems like they're sometimes always talking about the plot, but somehow not enough. You know what I mean? To where you're like, wait, what was that again? And there's not a lot of retreading. Sometimes the plot is retread so much in a movie where you're just like, I freaking know. Stop talking about it. Move on with the plot. But in this, it's like, we're doing this. Okay, bye. And you're like, wait, what?
The whole scene where the doctor, whatever she is, scientist, is explaining inversion to him, it's pretty quick. She's like, no small talk, and yep, they stick to that.
This is where my pencil went down, and I said, nope. And I leaned forward, and I was like, okay, here we go. What?
Yep.
What?
Better to just get out your phone and record the screen.
No freaking crap.
To remember.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That was a lot. And, you know, they kind of explain this later. We talk about the protagonist a little bit.
Kind of.
Well,
explain
what I'm about to bring up, the fact that, like, the protagonist is very quick to accept this. I think he's like, how is this possible? You know, he's very much like, what? At first, and it's not how...
I think that's part of him being a soldier, though.
Yes.
His character is a soldier. He's learned to not only obey commands, but not ask too many questions because, you know, time is important in, you know, soldiers' world.
They do a good job explaining that later, because in the moment I was like, are you freaking kidding me? If that was me, I'd be like asking so many questions. But he's asking questions that pertain to his job. He's not asking questions like, how is this, like, you know, well, he does ask how is this possible, but
it's just like, I'm not seeing an apocalypse.
Yeah, I'm not seeing an apocalypse here. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll get into that, what the apocalypse means in this situation. So this is like the part of the movie that I'm talking about, where he passes the test, basically going from the CIA to go into this organization. That the organization is called Tenet, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So basically he meets guy number 1.
They say, what is Tenet? We are
Tenet. That's right. So he meets guy number 1. I don't know his name. And then he tells him he puts him on the path to where he meets the scientist. And then she puts him on another path to where he meets up with Neil, right? Am I right at this? Am I on point, right?
Yeah, it felt like the only reason he was going to meet Neil was so that he could get at the like arms deal, right? That's what it felt like. It was almost like he assumed that Neil was just like a local guy that like worked with him, and it's like, well, set me up a meeting. You know, I don't even need 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. It just moves so quick at this point. This is like the part of the movie where
it's almost like they intentionally did not set up Neil as an important character to like, you know, lure you away from the scent on that kind of thing.
Yes, that's exactly right. You're not supposed to know what Neil's true intentions are until much later in the movie. He's like supposed to be just kind of like a go-to guy, right? At this point.
Yeah. He's just a helper. It feels like.
Yeah, a lot of this is just... And then they meet Pyra, because basically that's who they assume that Pyra is the person who is making the inverted weapons at this point, or that they know who is.
The understanding was that she knew where the metal came from, because the metal was signature. Like the only way you could get that type of metal was through India, and they assumed it was a he, but she, Priya, ended up. Yeah. She knew everything basically, but they were assuming that she was just the source of the metal, I believe, at that point. Okay, so a lot of this is grasping at straws for me. There's points in the movie where there are no straws, and I'm just grasping at air. For me, it went by so quick. The Michael Caine character. I know. What did he do? I know. I don't understand. Basically, I feel like he just explained to him how to be a gentleman, and that he shouldn't be wearing Brooks Brothers. Yeah. That's all I got away from that conversation. Me too. Is that why he met up, to get wardrobe advice? You need to have an air of a gentleman, and you don't have it, or something, like too much of a soldier. Yeah. Even though that didn't really seem to be a problem. No, it didn't really play out too much. It's not like he had to fit in high society, like in...
I don't know. It's not like a Prince and the Pauper situation. And whatever happened,
it almost felt like they thought that the world they were going to be entering with the arms dealer. What is his name?
Andre, yeah,
Andre Sator.
Sator, yeah.
They felt like it was like this, high class, like hubby bubby, like be a gentleman society, and then it ended up it really wasn't at all the way he got into it. It was like he more had to be like almost like a nitty gritty, like Russian type of, or he wasn't from Russia, Ukraine, like the Ukrainian, like manly, like chop somebody's arm off kind of guy to like get in, after he described how he's going to kill it to him. It was like, okay, this is the world I'm entering.
Yes.
He's going to like choke on his goodies.
And he's also, so he is the one who's making a lot of this happen. He's like the point man in this time. But what does the art have to do with any of it? Like, there's about something about fake art, how his wife is like a procurer of like art. And she's indebted to him.
Yeah. So I think what it was she bought a forged painting and then got a dealer to sell him that forged painting, and then the money that the dealer made, she was going to split with the wife, and the wife was going to use that money to leave him.
Oh.
Because she needed some money to be independent of him so that she wasn't relying upon him. He found that out and now holds that over her as like, well, if you ever leave me, I'll have you imprisoned for, however long.
I see.
Because of that whole, whatever money laundering deal, whatever you call it.
Because that passed me by, and so whenever they reference it,
it was very confusing, and I'm only partially confident that that's what it was.
Because when they bring it up, like after the fact, they'd say something like, "Oh, I'll just referencing the painting itself." I'm like, "Well, what's up with the painting? I know it's fake. Is there a magic spell on it or something? What's going on? I don't know." So that helps me greatly, actually.
Because I guess if he had actually destroyed it like he said he would, then he wouldn't have anything over her at that point, and she could take her son and leave.
Okay, all right.
Which, I mean, he's going to use something. I'm sure he could use something other than the painting.
I know.
Like a gun. Or his power around the world as an international arms dealer.
I know.
It seems a little far-fetched, but, I mean, it was somewhat believable, I guess.
So they have to steal it? Okay, so this is where like the heist comes in. Why do they do this?
Yeah,
I have no freaking I know, I have no freaking idea. Well, I was like, why are they there again?
I think the simple version of it when they started was, we need to break in here to take this painting, to destroy it for her as a favor, and then it's still confusing because if they did that, then. Yeah, so that the whole thing seemed to be that so he could get an introduction to her husband.
Okay.
So, but it seems like you'd be on the wrong side of him at that point.
Yeah.
But I guess they were hoping that he wouldn't know that it was them, and it is, that part is definitely confusing for sure. But I think then they realize that there's something else in that facility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's when, they eventually figure out that there's the machine.
I mean, at this point of the movie, I'm like trying. Okay, it's like I recognize at the point where I'm like, nope, the plot has passed me by for at least why we're here in this moment. It's gone. And so I'm just going to kind of enjoy this heist because it's enjoyable, right? Just the crashing the plane, the fight scene, the whole mechanic where they suck the air out of the room. It's fun. I was having fun with it. Good action. Great action there.
It felt like that whole thing was a little forced. It felt like, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it felt like the real parts of the movie that were like super important to the storyline and stuff, it felt like that whole scene was just, I don't know, like they didn't give their effort on it, if you know what I mean. It's like, it really, all of that was just set up so that he could be going in reverse later, inverted back through that situation. I think so. And you realize that he ran into himself. But other than that, you don't really feel like what they're doing is important. Like you said, it doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about the reasoning that they're doing it. But then it's really cool later when the reveal is there. It's like, oh, that's so cool. but it's like the whole situation isn't as cool. And I don't know. This is where I feel like Inception did some of those same kind of things, but I felt really good about what they were doing. It made more sense, I guess. If you remember, like the dream and a dream and a dream, there was like all those situations where they're like setting up, but it like made more sense. Like when he's like strapping them with bombs in the room, and the room's like tumbling. It's like, this actually makes sense why this is happening. It's not only a cool thing that they're doing, but it also makes sense. And this one, it's the same kind of thing where it's like, this is really cool, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like a bad idea to make way for a good idea. So they contrive one thing to make one
cool
thing work.
Inside of not so cool of a thing. It's like, this, it sounds cool on paper, but I don't know. It feels contrived, I guess, would be a way of putting it. When you're actually watching, it's like, well, I don't know.
The purpose for that didn't really justify itself. Yeah. I definitely was feeling it.
It felt like a plane slowly taxiing into a building. It's like, it would have been cool if you guys had flown it into that, but
maybe a little bit more dramatic, as they would have said. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess he was stuck to the real effects thing too.
Yeah,
so can only do so much with real effects.
That's exactly right. I think Nolan sometimes does need to kind of get over it a little bit and kind of give way to that, because they use a lot of composite effects and like special effects shots in Inception, whereas not so much CGI. There's definitely some CGI there, which really enhanced it. Whereas if he was using models, it may have not looked as cool. Okay, so I feel like at this point in the movie, I feel like I'm a little bit more like anchored in, still confused. But once we meet Sator, I feel like the movie starts to slow down at that point. I don't know. I think in a movie where you establish a villain, it starts to kind of ground itself a little bit, where you're like, okay, there it is. There's the bad guy. Yeah. He's the one we need to stop. Okay, great. Got it. And you can kind of go, and instead the movie feels like more anchored when it has an antagonist you can point to sometimes, especially in these espionage movies,
It felt like they really dragged out you like meeting him.
Oh yeah.
It was almost like this like shadowy figure for a little while.
And it seemed like he could have just walked in.
I was wondering if we were ever going to meet him.
Yeah.
I felt like he was going to be like behind the curtain kind of thing.
Then once you meet him, he's there. He's not like he's trying to be.
Then he's like, He's not shadowy at all anymore. It's just.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like anyone's trying
there in your face.
He Kenneth Branagh in this role. He's something. He plays it pretty big compared to everyone else in this movie. I mean, he's kind of always gives performances like this that are kind of big acting with a capital A performances, but I found him entertaining. I liked him a lot in this. I mean, you're not supposed to like him; you want him dead, but in that way,
he had this creepy, dark air to him, which I think fit well with the movie.
Yeah, this like simmering anger where he's just like,
you don't know what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
Several times I'm like, is he gonna shoot her? I feel like he's gonna shoot her.
And he does. Eventually.
Yeah.
He gets around to it.
I don't really know why in those parts, we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but I'm not sure why in those parts he didn't just kill her.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's a strange one to kind of figure out where he is with her, because it feels like he hates her in some parts, and then in other parts it's like he has a soft spot for her.
Yeah, a lot of it's I think he's super possessive, and it's like he doesn't want to let go of a thing. That's what she is to him, kind of like more of a thing.
No one can have you.
Yeah.
That whole line.
God.
They really impress you on that. And I think that obviously plays into the whole plot of the entire movie. It's like that's the reason why he's willing to end the world, because if he can't have the world, then no one can.
Exactly. I mean,
very Bond villain.
Very. Oh my God, hardcore. He would fit right in like a Daniel Craig Bond movie or any Bond movie for it.
Wasn't he in a Bond movie?
Maybe. Kenneth Branagh.
He would definitely be good in one if he hasn't been in one.
He'd be right at home.
Oh, he was in Dunkirk. That's right. That's where I know him. Yeah.
Has he worked with Nolan beyond Dunkirk? I don't think so. I guess not.
I'm looking through his stuff. I don't see.
He will now. That's for sure. I mean, when
he was in Harry Potter. Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's in those murder Murder on the Orient Express, and he's gonna be in.
Oh, Wild Wild West.
Oh my God.
He's Dr. Lovelace.
Captain Lovelace. Oh
That's
my God,
right.
He wasn't he?
Dr. Arliss.
You don't go any bigger than Lovelace and freaking Wild Wild West. It's hard to go bigger than that, isn't it? That is
great.
a big performance.
I completely forgot about that. I know that face now. He didn't have much of a body in that movie, but I know that face.
I did not expect Wild Wild West to make its way into this podcast.
I know.
But there it is.
I completely forgot. Yeah.
Outstanding.
He should have been in Die Another Day or No Time to Die,
Yeah.
whatever the name of this movie is. He'd be so good in a Bond movie.
He'll work his way into one.
He played this character really well.
Yeah, and there's a lot that you immediately understand here because these are like the human relationships, right, between him and his wife, and it's like, yeah, you kind of get this, you kind of get him, and that kind of helped me a little bit. Even though still, I mean, the plot slowed down a little bit, but still, when things come up, I'm still kind of like, okay, so he thinks that the weapon is like a plutonium at this point. Is that right? That's what the protagonist believes at this point, that whatever's going to trigger this has to do with the plutonium.
Wait, what? I'm confused even. Which part are you talking about?
Isn't he like, okay, I'm going to help you steal
the 241?
Yeah, is that plutonium or is that a bomb? Or is it both?
No, I think it's plutonium.
Okay,
yeah.
so he's like, I'm going to...
It's a certain type of plutonium, they say, in the one part.
And so he's like, I'm going to help you get this, but it ends up being part of this algorithm thing that we come to find, right?
Yeah, a 9-step algorithm formula.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Formula?
And like, I'm like, how does he get it? Like, when they say algorithm, there's so much things that are like, it's hard to kind of grasp. And so when he says, oh, we're going for the algorithm, I'm like, how do you even go for that? Isn't that just like an equation or whatever? But no, it ends up being like a bunch of bits of garbage. And I'm like, that's the algorithm? And so
that was your impression, that thing at the end was all the parts together?
That was my impression.
Okay. You may be right.
To where they were going to blow it up.
I wasn't completely confident of that.
So they were going to use the bomb to trigger the algorithm, and
they were going to bury it.
Yeah, and
that's what Tenet was trying to do. They were trying to
bury it, and
originally,
and the team who's trying to destroy the universe or whatever was trying to basically activate it with that bomb, basically like that.
Like the singularity, is that what they call it?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That was confusing. It was very confusing when Aaron Taylor Johnson pointed his gun at him.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what is happening?
Exactly.
And then he wasn't double crossing them. It's like, what?
It's like he explained it after the fact, and he's like, oh, because you have no word seen it, I have to kill. I'm like, oh, okay. So it was super confusing in the moment. And by the way,
none of us can live.
Yeah. I had no idea freaking Aaron Taylor Johnson was going to be in this movie. He's kind of disappeared, and I didn't recognize him. I had to like look at him. I was like,
he's so good.
Aaron Taylor Johnson. He is a good actor.
I don't know why he doesn't get more roles.
I don't know.
Especially plays that. Oh, he was in that soldier movie where he steps on a landmine. That was one I recently saw him in. Or The Wall. No, sorry. He's pinned down behind a wall. There's two movies. And I was getting them confused, but he's pinned behind a wall, and there's a sniper that holds him down.
See. Okay,
it's really cool. You should watch it. It's called
The Wall, not the one with Matt Damon.
No,
no,
not The Wall, Jordan.
So, I mean, a lot of this stuff that happens here, I get, but not fully. It's one of those things where it's like I get the basic idea of what's happening.
A second watch would probably go. Oh
yeah, it's just like the mechanisms in which they pull a lot of this stuff off and how it happens. I'm very confused, but the basic beats. I'm like, okay, he thinks it's gonna be the plutonium, ends up being a part of the algorithm. He loses it. She gets shot with the inverted bullet, which is bad. He tries.
I guess because it's passing through you backwards, and so it's a much larger.
Oh yeah.
like it's the wrong side of the bullet.
Oh God.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's why like where the entry wound would be, it was like really
It was like
bad.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I guess if the bullet broke up when it went through you, then those severed pieces would be coming back through you again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. We're justifying things that are confusing and fiction.
Yeah. I mean, all of this is basically just to be an example as to that you can't change anything, right? Because he tries to go back, be like, no, I'm going to get that thing so he doesn't get it. It's my fault that he has it. I'm going to try to get it. And it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's basically just to show you, okay, it's that kind of time travel. It's that whatever happened kind of time travel that, you know.
But she didn't kill him in the first time through.
Did she not?
Right?
Or did he always die there?
I don't think she did.
Because he said
that's what's confusing, because she came back to the boat and left her son there, but then she did see him later. You know what I'm saying?
But that's the past one, right?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's what's confusing.
So confusing.
If she did literally go back in time and change it, then, you know, the future would be different. So in that case, she would have actually changed it. But, you know, is it two different timelines? That's the confusing part.
That is, yeah, exceptionally confusing. And oh boy. I mean,
any type of time traveling movie is just, it's not going to be, you really can't explain it because it's beyond our reality. So
yeah, we're
just making up fiction basically whenever we explain it.
But I will say this is the most confusing time travel movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Bar none. Bar freaking none. I always feel like I have some grasp on what they're doing.
Interstellar was very confusing.
Interstellar was, but like time was only a part of that, which like, but I feel like
it was very important in the ending.
It was very important in the ending.
It was very confusing.
But I feel like constantly in this movie we're meant to understand its time travel mechanism. For like the entire second half, I'm like grappling with the time travel because at first, because in the beginning it's like as we said, the whole inversion thing isn't so prominent in like the first 50% of the movie. It's more like getting the plot going and figuring out where we need to go and getting there. So
this may be a waste of time, but I'm going to try to explain a concept that I've read in my quantum physics books. So the idea of gravity having an effect on time, I think, is partially what Nolan's going with this whole idea that radioactivity could somehow change time. So if you are looking, you know, obviously you can't do this, but if you're looking at someone from here on another planet, and that planet is 10 times the size of Earth, for you, time is moving at a certain time. You know, 1 second equals 1 second for us. Well, that person up there, because the gravitational pull of that planet is much stronger, time will move faster for them. So for every second, they basically, you let's say theoretically you could actually see them. You would see them age at 10 times the rate of what we're aging here because of that gravitational pull.
Okay. Scary.
And that's what's super confusing. So I guess the idea is that the radioactivity of this certain radioactive isotope will somehow be able to reverse time when it is embedded inside of the material of a bullet, a gun, whatever it is. And so the thing that doesn't make any sense is how are you activating it? Because it almost feels like you're activating it with your mind, which is some X-Men stuff, and it's just complete
where it's
fiction.
like, oh no, you have to be
it's
dropping
not based on
it.
anything.
Like, wait, what? If you haven't done that,
that's the part that they didn't explain at all. Exactly.
That's where my mind went.
Like, I can buy that there's some type of material that if embedded inside the metal could change something, because that, you know, the fact that gravity can change time, it's like, okay, so that is a real concept that, you know, time changes differently in our galaxy depending on the rate of gravitational pull. So that's interesting. They didn't explain how you're able to activate it. Like, how are you able to control it like Magneto? That's the weird part. It's like,
exactly.
If you're just going to be like, have Magneto powers, then okay, you know, that's fine. But if you're just going to say, yeah, well, this is an inverted bullet, and you're able to pull it up with your mind.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
It made more sense to me when the person was inverted and like everything that they did was inverted rather than that's an inverted gun and you have to like do something special to make it do that thing. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Because they went through the machine and the machine, would have injected, it would have radioactivated them or something. Like, that's okay. It's a giant microwave or something, that can somehow make some kind of sense. It's still crazy confusing and hard to buy, but at least it makes some kind of sense. I wish they'd have been like, if you wear this glove, then you can, have power over the inverted object.
Yes, this is an inverted glove. Here you go. And then it that's.
And this has effect over inverted objects all over the world, but they didn't do that at all. It's just, you dropped it. Look.
Oh,
like, what?
No. Oh, yeah. What?
Yeah. Explain to me why. Like, give me an actual reason. Don't just say you have to feel like you dropped it. Like, what? No.
So, how time like the act of like actually going to the past works here. So, they go back to the event where Satar or whatever his name is.
It works in real time, which is interesting. Yeah. Because I think this is one of the first movies where that's done that.
You don't get in a machine and like input a number. Yeah. No, it's like if I had to go 50 years in the past, I'd have to sit here, be inverted, sit here and wait 50 years.
50 years.
And just wait. And then.
But you would still age, right?
You'd still age. You're not aging in reverse, are you? No.
So it's the only useful thing about it would be to undo a recent mistake,
if you can.
Basically.
Yeah.
So I chopped my arm off. Can I be inverted for a second, please, so I can undo that? Because that sucked.
In the world. And you can encounter your past self, obviously. I mean, that always.
And then you're like atoms come together or something.
Annihilation is what he said.
Yeah. What does that mean?
I wanted to see it happen.
Annihilation for everyone or just you?
Yeah, I wanted to see it happen.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting sucked in. Annihilation.
Yeah, if it was just for...
And that's why you don't touch yourself in the past.
If it was just...
Okay, I won't do that.
If it was the entire world, that's what Satar's plot would be. He'd just meet himself, be like, is it time? Yes, and he'd just give himself a high five.
Boom. Zooms out on the world.
Let's do this.
Full on explosion. High five.
Yeah!
Credits roll. The alternate ending. How it should have ended. We just wrote it.
God. Probably one of the most confusing things for me is the pincer move that they do at the end. That's so confusing to me. Oh my God. I don't understand it. Like, I know that they're doing the same operation, but one waits until it's over and then does it in reverse. And then one does it in real time. But...
No, they both are arriving at the same time, but it's just one. Yeah, that's what's so confusing. One, well, if you think about it, so when they went through the machine, everything was happening that had been happening, right?
Yeah.
It just was happening in reverse.
Mm.
Oh, man.
And who are they fighting there?
That's so confusing. It's so confusing.
That part to me, it's just... I've tried thinking about it so much. I've literally watched a YouTube video just to explain that one part to me, and I still don't freaking get it.
Yeah.
That part is the one part that makes me feel like a freaking idiot. A lot of the other parts, I'm like, okay, I just missed something. But that part, I'm like,
because they even say, like, you have to rethink the way you think about time.
I know. And then I'm like, to what end? What is, like... Oh, God. Because, I mean, we find out that Neil, that's the end for him. That's where he dies. He basically dies helping them at the end there. That's the end for him. Right? Oh my God.
I think so. I think we can confidently say so. By the way they were kind of talking, I think they were trying to like wrap that up and make that emotional.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought was so cool about it. I love the way Neil like tied into everything, basically everything that had happened to him all the way back to the beginning of the movie.
It was a good moment. It was a good moment. I'm very confused about it still, but it still works. You get the idea of it, but the mechanisms of it, I'm reeling over what. I get he sees the red string and that's his, or whatever. That's to identify that's who that guy was.
He had saved him in the opera.
Yes, in the opera.
Because he knew he would need him later.
Yes, because he...
So I think that's another... Sorry to interrupt you. I think that's another example of that you can change things in the past.
Okay.
Because if he hadn't done that, he wouldn't have entered the Tenet program and been tortured. That was a strange thing. It was like, are you going to run him over by a train? Why are we at the train station?
Pulling out every single one of his teeth. My God. I'm concerned about...
Like I said, I still don't understand what was happening in that operation. Like, why?
I don't know. Don't know.
Why was he like wake up the Americans? I guess it was like a cooperation with Ukraine.
There was like the
Russia
Russian agencies and then the American CIA that was like going in and trying to slip in as one of them.
They were trying to act like they were part of it.
Again, to one end, I don't know. I don't know who that guy is, and so I'm not allowed to understand at this point.
It's, sometimes I would say Christopher Nolan sacrifices character building for just like flashy, fast action. And I think that was an example of it where it, I feel like I would have enjoyed the pre-story, but I also enjoyed like quickly getting into the action. So it's like, I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I would have liked to have understand it better, but I also like the fact that it's just like, here we go.
Yeah, it was a great intro. I mean, like a lot of the things that were presented here are confusing on its face. Like the pincer movement at the end, that's just confusing no matter how carefully they try to explain it to you, really. I mean, it's just so confusing.
And then how did Neil invert himself mid-thing? Like, what?
I know. He's like, hey, guys, what's up? I'm like, wait, what? How about...
I thought you were inverted.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's things that, like, are... Some of the things are needlessly confusing, where it's like, oh, yeah, you explained to me, like, the painting. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I can be explained to that in 10 seconds. But, like, it's just there to be needlessly confusing and just not... I don't know. It's strange. But I mean, an important thing is, though, even though I have a lot of questions and I'm very confused, I get what happens at the end. Like, I still, even though, again, the mechanisms behind how, I'm extremely confused, but I do understand what was achieved at the end and like what happened. I know that. I know the result of it, but a lot of like how it occurred is at this moment beyond me.
I loved how they were just dragging his body through the water.
Oh my God.
Behind the boat. It was like, in case you thought he might be able to come back.
There's no freaking way.
That boy gone.
It was brutal enough. There was I made an audible when he fell off that boat after getting shot. Just it's like, damn. That's like,
in case you were wondering,
and there he is. I almost expected like a cartoon iris to go over it. But there he goes.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's revealed like the protagonist. He's the one who he's the founder of Tenet, right?
I guess. I know, it's so weird. It's like things are founded in the future, but then they come back to the past to like do things. And I guess Neil was the one like tasked with going back to like bring the protagonist forward. That's what was so confusing.
It's always weird to me when something is set in motion by something in the future to be like, oh, you're the one who you're the founder of Tenet. Well, where did that idea come from? From future you. Well, where did...
Yeah. and like the Terminator is a fairly simple concept, but it has gotten crazy confusing with each new movie.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, is he dead in this one yet? Or is he going to die?
Yeah.
Is his mom dead?
Terminator, I think, is more like silly in a way where it's like, well, this movie counts and the other movies don't count, and a lot of it I don't think makes sense no matter who you are. Whereas I think Nolan, I do feel like he has some understanding of what's going on. I just think
I just mean it's the same kind of confusing where it's like future actions are supposed to affect past, and it's like, what? Yeah.
Luke.
overall, I mean, I enjoy movies that are confusing and super deep, though. So, like, as much as it might frustrate me that I don't understand every concept in this movie, I kind of like that about it.
Yeah,
So,
no, there is something
you
very
know,
intriguing. I love time travel stuff, and obviously Christopher Nolan does too. But
yeah.
yeah, and it's just in a way that I've never seen before, and so we're having to really break it down. And again, home release. Home release is where these ideas will.
It'd be interesting to see how long this stays in theaters.
Yeah,
I sure hope it does well this weekend.
yeah.
It was not doing well our night
No,
in our theater. At
it was
least
as
there was probably 12
it
people
was
in
as
there.
close as we could get to like a private screening. Where I mean, especially where we were sitting, me and Amber, we felt like we were alone in the theater, which. I mean, for my way of being, that's great. I love being like, oh man, there's no one bothering me. I'm not close to anyone.
I didn't hear a single person talk, so that was
exactly.
awesome.
I never hear a peep. But yeah, yeah. I think it wrapped up nicely, and I did kind of feel like the like the feel, not like a bad magic trick where you don't even know that a trick has occurred. You see the trick, you're impressed by it. But a lot of the mechanizations of how it occurred is completely lost on me. But yeah, I enjoy like we're talking right now. I enjoy talking to you about it. It's a lot. It was that's fun in that regard to kind of talk about the ideas. I'm sure there's gonna be 10,000 Tenet explained videos that are on YouTube. I'm sure there's some right now.
Well, we just did kind of one. We explained some of it.
Ooh, yeah, that is
much as I understood of it.
Exactly. It's like we tried to kind of help ourselves out here.
Watch it again. That's what I would recommend in the end.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm 100%
probably
gonna have to.
Understand more the second time.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's gonna be people who are way better off watching this and be like, yeah, I understand, you freaking idiots. I don't think that's gonna be a high percentage of the population.
That's okay.
Yeah, I feel like we did.
We're not the smartest.
No.
If you understand it better,
well done. Congratulations. We did the best we could. But anyways, I mean, always great to see a Nolan movie. It was great to see. I'm glad we got to see it in theaters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Whatever, man. I think about that. That about does it. I mean, what's the next movie that we're gonna be seeing?
That is the question, isn't it? New Mutants was not that one. No Time to Die comes out in November, so it's a little ways off. But, definitely looking forward to that one.
Agreed. I mean, it might be a bit of a gap here between now and our next spoiler cast, but definitely No Time to Die will be among them. I mean, I don't really remember when Wonder Woman or Black Widow comes out. I think one of them comes out in October, and one of them comes out in November. I'm just not sure. But either way, we'll be here. We'll be here for it all. We'll understand that movie a whole lot better. I guarantee it, I guess.
Wonder Woman. That's the
Wonder
next
Woman.
one.
Okay.
October 2nd.
That's not too bad. That's like a month away. So, okay, great. Fantastic. Wonder Woman. All right, we'll be there for Wonder Woman 88.
That's right.
I guess that does it. Luke, you got anything you want to say about Tenet before we close out?
I think it's well worth a watch. I mean, it's definitely not Nolan's best, but like I said, if you're into sci-fi, if you're into like mind-bending things, I mean, I guess we've done a whole spoiler cast, so anybody who's watched this far has probably already seen the movie. Imagine. But I don't know. I've been looking forward to it for a long time, so I'm excited. I'm just glad to talk about it. Glad to finally see it after so many delays. So. What an awful year to release a movie, but I'm glad he finally was able to get it out. And I sure hope he makes his money back and makes a decent amount on it, because I think creators need to be rewarded for their effort, especially this kind of effort. So
I agree. And it's like you said, I can't imagine anyone would be listening to the spoiler version of this. I can't imagine what that experience would be like.
Yeah. Probably not very enjoyable.
No, it would be like looking at an abstract painting, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Anywho, yeah, I guess that does it. Well, we'll be here next time. If you've watched this video, like and subscribe, do all those things. And if you're listening to us on Apple iTunes or Spotify, give us a decent review. And yeah, we'll catch you next week with whatever shenanigans we pull.
That's right.
All right. We'll see you guys later.